I'm Ashok Khosla, back with The Green Show. 20, even 10 years ago, few companies took notice of their environment. It added no value to their products and cost nothing to use. But things are changing rapidly. Every day we hear more of eco-rules, eco-marks, and eco-care. To sell products in today's discerning market, companies increasingly advertise their ecological values. Are these the signs of a new eco-industrial revolution? Perhaps. Yet, surprisingly few business houses have learned to view the environment as the opportunity it really is, for new business ventures and for new sources of profit.
In this episode of The Green Show, we have Recycling Myths, an expose of the myths of plastic recycling, useful garbage, a few tips on how to treat domestic garbage effectively, Biocoal, a viable alternative to the conventional fossil fuel, and different strokes, where we find out about the eco-friendly four-stroke engines.
New knowledge creates new fashions, even in science. When plastics were invented, they were promoted as the miracle material capable of unlimited uses in industry and in the home. Then we realized that they use scarce fossil resources which are running out, and worse, they do not biodegrade when discarded. Now, new processes have been developed to recycle plastics. Will these technical advances give a new lease of life to plastic materials? How safe is recycling, and how much of the plastic we use will actually flow back into industry? Let us take a closer look at the whole issue of recycling plastics.
This is the age of plastics. Everywhere, plastics are in use in some form or the other. It has literally invaded all the areas of our lives. And the search is constantly on for newer uses, while traditional materials are gradually replaced by plastics. There is no denying the specific benefits of plastics. It has replaced some scarce materials like wood and paper, and its low cost has brought many a good within the purchasing power of the masses. At the same time, however, it has accelerated the pace of consumerism and hastened the advent of disposable lifestyle. The whole problem of plastic use arises from the fact that it is not biodegradable. As a result, the disposal of plastic wastes is a major problem. Recycling has been preferred as a solution. In fact, the non-biodegradability and the resulting possibilities of recycling is advanced as a positive spin-off from the use of plastics. Recycling is said to be advantageous insofar as it saves on energy and resource use.
Plastic became very unpopular in the US, and we all have, I think, read about how the US public realized that it does not biodegrade and it's going to be there forever, and they wanted to get back to glass and paper. And so there was perceptible dwindling in demand for plastic, and the industry in America got very concerned, and they started this multi-million-dollar campaign, purely an image-building exercise to convince the public that plastic is recyclable. This is where the recyclability myth of plastic started, which is nothing more than a myth.
The recycling of plastics does not in any way accomplish the true purposes of recycling. The argument that waste is a useful product, as long as it has marketable value, completely ignores the hazardous nature of the waste.
What is recycling? Recycling means whatever bottles or plastics or films we have should be taken after use and put it through a process, and just we can use 100% of that, or say 90% or 80%, but that doesn't happen. You can get out of the recycling only about 40%, and the grade of the thing that comes is not first class grade. It's not like the original, so more has to be put on to that. And then there's a waste product out of this so-called recycling. So about 40% is used, 60% goes there. Now what do you do with that 60%? Even this 40% is not good enough, but that 60% has to be burnt, because there's no other way, because it takes centuries for this plastic to be biodegraded.
While plastic itself is relatively inert, its manufacture involves the use of vinyl chloride, xylene, benzene, and other such toxic chemicals. Apart from damaging the ecosystem, these cause cancer, birth defects, and damage to the human body. During recycling, when the plastics are heated and melted, these very toxics are released into the atmosphere. The fallout for all forms of life is extremely perilous. This hazard is increased manifold when the plastics that cannot be recycled are directly burnt. The mass disappears in front of our eyes. But what escapes into the air are dioxins, one of the most toxic elements known to man. The worst affected are the workers involved with the recycling process. Lack of proper ventilation and the absence of any sort of protective gear makes the working conditions extremely hazardous. The toxic fumes that they inhale at work poisons their bodies from within. It shows on their faces. But a lack of awareness prevents them from having any idea of the threat they face every day. Economic compulsions doesn't allow for a choice anyway.
Quite often I have a feeling that the kind of people who go into this business do not know what they are doing. Their aim is to make a product, to make a profit, which is quite sensible. And they're making products for the people. But they don't know quite often, so even that is the problem. That's where the government or the NGOs or the better informed public opinion can help.
Each time plastic is recycled, it degrades in quality. As a result, recycled plastic can't be used to make the product from which it was obtained as waste. The lower grade plastic then finds use in inferior product lines. And more new plastic has to be manufactured for the original use. So what we have at the end of the day is a much greater use of plastics and a higher volume of production. Even as it is argued that recycling is less harmful than primary production, that primary ores contain more toxins than secondary ones, we must realize that we can well do without goods that use hazardous elements. Recycling merely puts the toxins back into use and transforms primary wastes into secondary trash. The sooner we realize this, the better.
We hear a great deal these days about industrial wastes, but not much on domestic wastes. I suppose this is because we assume that the municipal authorities will take care of our city's garbage and sanitation problems. But you don't have to go to Surat to see large quantities of waste accumulating at street corners and in residential areas, creating an eyesore and horrible health hazards. What can we as citizens do? Srishti, a non-governmental organization based in Delhi, is mobilizing citizen action and demonstrating that together we can work for a better environment. Here is how.
Street corners overflowing with garbage. Animals rummaging through it for something to eat. Faced with sights like these, we usually look the other way or change our route. What we probably choose to ignore is that most of the refuse lying around the city is generated by us. We feel our job is done when we put our domestic garbage outside our gates for the local sweeper to collect. We are rest assured that the municipal authorities will take care of it. But the civic authorities are, in most cases, not equipped to handle all the trash we generate. Delhi, for instance, generates 3,880 tons of garbage every day. The Municipal Corporation, MCD, is able to clear only a mere 2,420 tons. The rest, nearly 40% of it, lies around festering the landscape. Srishti, a non-profit organization working for a cleaner and greener Delhi, is currently trying to implement a project that not only takes care of domestic wastes, but in the process generates something useful out of it. The project involves the recycling of domestic biodegradable wastes into manure. This is done by vermicomposting, a composting process that takes the help of red earthworms.
It is an attempt to look at treat the garbage we have in the city, which we have plenty of, as an alternative method of handling garbage. Because now, in a centralized system with the MCD, all the garbage gets collected and goes to a landfill. Srishti as an organization tries to work with people's groups to see if we can change the way we live and the way we treat our environment. From that point of view, garbage is a very essential part of how we are living. And the idea of producing compost is to decentralize the garbage collection and disposal system at a small colony level, or at an individual level, and to see whether we can ourselves handle our own kitchen waste and also get some benefit out of it, which is compost.
The composting is done in a pit that is a mere 9 to 12 inches deep. It is lined with coir, and then a layer of cow dung is spread all over. The earthworms are put into this layer of biomanure. The pit is covered with a gunny sack that is watered to keep the whole pit moist. Making the pit in a shaded area helps the whole process. The pit is now ready to take in the organic kitchen wastes. All one needs to ensure is to separate the biodegradable in the domestic waste from the rest. This can then be dumped regularly into the pit and covered with a layer of leaves or cow dung. In 6 weeks, the earthworms convert the garbage into first-grade biomanure. Since the composting does not emit any foul smell, one can even set up indoor pits in plastic baskets. Srishti began its efforts at the micro level by trying to convince individual households to take up the project within their own homes. The response it got was positive.
I was quite worried about the garbage in the colony, and garbage was a problem whether it was inside the colony or even after it went outside and was lying on the pit on the roads. It was smelling and looking very ugly. And I had read about vermiculture, and I had seen some programs on TV, and it was very fascinating to hear how earthworms could solve a big problem like this. So that's how I got into it. I've just begun a vermicompost pit, and I really do hope because that it would work. And certainly on the human level, I find that my immediate neighbors, after a bit of explanation, are pretty amenable to this kind of an idea.
Srishti hopes to gradually widen their focus to colonies and housing societies and convince them to take up this very simple and eco-friendly garbage disposal process.
Well, initially it was difficult, although now we get many people phoning us up, and we try to cater to individual colonies and individual needs. And I think one of the biggest problems is convincing people that it's important to be responsible for your garbage. Garbage doesn't end with giving it to your jamadarni, and it's important to take an interest in it, because after all, we know when plague broke out, it was all organic garbage that was the problem.
The organization provides all the help required to set up vermicomposting. For a nominal sum, it provides the earthworms. Its members constantly help, monitor and fine-tune individual efforts.
We try and work with resident associations, try and identify nodal people, resident associations, and we essentially help them in carrying this project out. So, which means that we use our experience to facilitate by putting this technology into a human system. So we act like a catalyst, and we keep on working with them till the point where we feel that they can take off on their own.
So if you want to do your bit in keeping your neighborhood clean, try and set up a vermicomposting pit to recycle your garbage.
Among the non-conventional sources of energy, bioenergy offers vast potential in India due to the wide range of biomass available in the country. About 120 million tons of agricultural and forest residues are generated annually. Presently, most of these are not collected at all or are burnt away. These wastes can be processed and converted into high-density fuel briquettes, biocoal, which can be used as a substitute for coal and firewood. Solar Sciences Consultancy is a private sector firm that offers a range of services relating to biocoal technology. We bring you the story of their effort to put waste to good use.
As we approach the turn of the century, energy demand in India is expected to increase rapidly. Approximately 450 million tons of coal, 80 million tons of crude oil, and 150 million tons of firewood will be required to meet our domestic energy requirements. It has been universally recognized that if we are to halt the widespread environmental degradation and resource depletion, we must put a cap on the use of firewood. also the limited resources of fossil fuels, have forced mankind to look for various alternative sources of energy. Among the various sources of non-conventional energy, one that has not received much attention is bioenergy. Bioenergy offers vast potential in the Indian context because of the wide spectrum of biomass available in different agro-climatic regions of the country. About 120 million tons of agricultural wastes and other forest residues are generated annually in the country. These very wastes can be profitably converted into high-density fuel briquettes, which offer themselves as viable alternatives to coal and firewood in meeting various energy needs. The concept of briquetting is fairly old, but now industry is taking a fresh look at the possibilities of bioenergy.
Earlier, the cost-benefit ratios of briquetting were not there. 10 years back, when briquetting plants were put up, the cost of the raw material and the cost of the sale product vis-a-vis coal, there was not much margin for profits. But in the last 10 years, things have changed. The cost of fuel has gone up very high, and the raw material cost is more or less the same, and hence there is a profit margin today. Earlier, 10 years back, we had sold a couple of plants, and today we are selling quite a large number of plants.
The process of briquetting is the physical compression of the loose raw material into a highly dense unit. The change in form increases the combustion efficiency of the fuel briquettes as compared to that of the loose raw material. For the manufacture of briquettes, waste materials are first tested for their chemical composition to check their suitability and also to ensure a proper mix. Sun-dried material having a moisture content of 10 to 15% is ideal for briquetting. If the waste has higher moisture levels, it needs to be dried before use. The material is screened, chopped and ground to get the desired size and bulk density. It is then pneumatically transported to the storage bins. This also separates the heavier particles and homogenizes the moisture level in the whole material. The material is then fed into the machine where it is compressed in specially designed dies. The compression raises the temperature of the biomass, thereby softening some of its inherent binders. These binders then come to the surface and hold the material together. Briquettes can be formed in the shape of logs or pellets. The briquettes are then forced through long tracks for cooling and proper shaping. Cooled briquettes are cut and packed in bags or stored in bulk for shipment to end users. Till date, Solar Science Consultancy has helped set up 36 biocoal briquetting plants all across the country. The market, however, can take much more.
As far as the future of this industry generally is concerned, I have been told that in India we can set up 7 lakh plants of this type, that is 2 tons per hour capacity. But our raw materials available, about 1,300 million tons of agricultural and forest waste are available. So the market is expanding with setting up of more and more industries.
But for all that to happen, the biocoal industry must receive adequate financial and infrastructural support of the government. Only then will its use become more popular.
Today, the margins of profits are there. We have seen in the last 5 years, we have seen a 5-fold increase in supply and demand of new equipment, new machinery. And a lot of it is going without even government incentive. If a government incentive is given for some promotion of this activity, I think it will go a long way in promoting a large number of industries.
Briquetted fuel is an ideal and ready substitute for coal and firewood and can easily replace these conventional fuels in various industries. The calorific value of briquettes made from various agricultural wastes like rice husk, bagasse, groundnut shells, cotton stalks and sawdust compares very favorably with that of firewood and mid-grade coal. Its combustion doesn't emit sulfur and phosphorus fumes nor any fly ash. The compact size and shape of biocoal also allows for easy handling and storage. Regeneration of the great variety of agricultural and other biomass wastes in our country into biocoal can to some extent help cut down the dependence on firewood and coal. And to that extent, biocoal can be termed as the green fuel of the future.
Steps are being taken to control the pollution arising out of the emissions of cars. But what about two-wheelers like scooters and motorcycles? The fumes emitted by two-wheeler engines are even more poisonous than the emissions from four-wheel vehicles. This is mainly because two-wheeler engines do not burn fuel efficiently. The use of four-stroke engines, however, radically improves the nature of emissions by ensuring a more efficient fuel combustion. Greater use of the four-stroke technology in two-wheelers and maybe even in three-wheelers can help make the air in our cities and towns a little cleaner. Come with us and see how.
The issue of vehicular pollution usually conjures up images of cars, trucks and buses spewing out noxious fumes. The problem of vehicular emissions in Indian cities has indeed reached dangerous levels. Recently, the World Health Organization placed Delhi as the third most polluted city in the world. With the launch of unleaded petrol in the 4 metros, the government claims to have taken a decisive step towards the control of vehicular pollution. However, there is one significant section of vehicles in India which not many seem to be bothered about. The multitude of two-wheelers in this country are in most cases more polluting than their four-wheeled counterparts. And this is mainly because an overwhelming majority of two-wheelers in India are based on the less efficient two-stroke engine. Presently, there are 3 manufacturers of four-stroke engine-based two-wheelers in the country. Hero Honda is one of them, and it produces a range of four-stroke motorcycles from its Dharuhera plant in Haryana. The unit produces 700 vehicles per day, vehicles that are much less polluting than the average two-wheeler on the Indian roads.
When we say two-stroke, it means that all operations of the engine are done in 2 cycles. Whereas in a 4-stroke, they are done in 4 cycles. That's why it's called 4-cycle engine. 4 cycle or 4-stroke is the same. The basic 4 operations are the intake, compression, third is combustion or ignition, fourth is exhaust. These 4 operations being done in 2-stroke in 2 cycles means 2 are done together. So in 2-stroke, intake and exhaust are done together. When the fresh air and the petrol mixture is coming in, at the same time the burnt charge is being exhausted. And when this thing happens, the fresh charge mixes with the burnt charge and some fresh charge goes out. Now when the unburnt petrol goes into the exhaust and goes out in the air, unburnt means hydrocarbons and the carbon monoxide. And that is what worries us when we talk of the environment. In case of a 4-stroke, there are valves which they are not in 2-stroke. And with the help of valves and 4 strokes, 4 cycles, this intake and the exhaust are separated. And when they are separated, they are controlled better. And when they are controlled better, the loss of petrol, loss of the energy which is happening in 2-stroke is controlled. There is much less loss. This one basic fundamental feature makes it different. 4-stroke from 2-stroke, it makes it different from 2-stroke to 4-stroke, and is basically responsible for better performance of the 4-stroke.
At the heart of the Hero Honda range of vehicles is the combination of the unique camshaft and twin valve system. These critical components, which are engineered with painstaking precision at the Dharuhera plant, work together to ensure as complete a combustion of fuels as is possible. Various tests have proved the superiority of the 4-stroke engine over the 2-stroke one. The exhaust fumes of 4-stroke engines contain significantly lower levels of hydrocarbons and carbon monoxide, and hence are much safer than that of a 2-stroke engine. The number of two-wheelers on Indian roads is growing every day and sales are booming. But the rapidly rising demand for these vehicles need not necessarily translate into a proportional increase in pollution if more two-wheeler manufacturers integrate the 4-stroke technology in their vehicles. By shifting to four-stroke, two-wheeler manufacturers can contribute to a cleaner and healthier environment. The government, on its part, can help the process by initiating steps that will make the switch to four-stroke technologies easier and more profitable for consumers as well as manufacturers. A well-targeted subsidy could be one of the possible options. Another effort at cleaning up the air in our cities could begin with the gradual introduction of four-stroke engine-powered auto rickshaws. Three-wheelers account for a major share of the vehicular emissions in Indian cities. But this problem can easily be brought under control if these black and yellow machines use the cleaner four-stroke technology. Awareness about the threat of vehicular pollution and the need to control it is on the rise nowadays. But what not many of us realize is that safer options are available. All that is required is a concerted, positive effort on the part of manufacturers and consumers.
Barring a few remarkable exceptions, businesses in India have a long way to go before they become environmentally sustainable. While commitment from top management is vital in this quest, not much progress can be made unless we also harness the creative energies of middle managers and shop floor employees. And that is why we at The Green Show would like to share these thoughts and ideas with you in the hope that you will become our partners in taking that one step further towards a green future.